Unit 5, the seventh day, a day different from all the rest. Okay, so we talked about the 6 days of creation in the last unit and kind of just examined some of or explored some of the natural relationships and the idea of that is this, are these time eras or are these actual physical 24-hour days, and just kind of tossed around some ideas there. But it led us right up to here, right, which is the seventh day. So in this unit, we're going to talk all about the seventh day because the seventh day is different. It's different from all the rest. In fact, there's something that is missing from the seventh day that every other day has, which is kind of interesting. So if we take a look, this is a screenshot of my Bible software. And if you kind of go at the top left there where it says NKJV with Strong's, that's the Bible I'm searching in. And then in that search box there, you'll see that there's two words with the word and brackets in between them. And so what I'm doing here is I am saying, hey, I want to do a search. And I want to do a search for the words evening and the word morning. But the and bracket is a command saying I only want verses where both evening and morning show up together. It doesn't matter where they are in the verse, but they both got to be there. And then below it, you see where it says range is Genesis. That's me saying I only want to search the book of Genesis. So what we find out is that there are only 6 verses in Genesis that have both the word evening and the word morning together in the same verse, right? You can see that right there where it says those are the kind of the hit results of the search. And so if I zoom back and see the results themselves, we can see something interesting, right? These are the 6 hits of the search looking for the words evening and morning together in the same verse in the book of Genesis. And we notice something interesting, right? All of these are found in chapter 1. So let's go through these a little bit because as you can even see right here that there's a pretty obvious reason why these kind of show up together, right? But these come on the creation days, don't they, right? So verse 5 says God called the light day and darkness he called night. So the evening and the morning were the first day. Right? Later on in verse 8, God called the firmament heaven. So that was the evening and the morning, and that was the second day, right? Verse 13, same kind of thing. So the evening and the morning were the third day. Verse 19, evening and morning were fourth day. You guys are getting the picture, right? So we got the fifth day and you got the sixth day. It says this phrase, so the evening and the morning, as it wraps up one day and goes into another one. Okay, and so we even looked at this verse previously, verse 31, right? This is the full verse. Then God saw everything that he had made, and indeed it was very good. Then it says the same phrase that it is said for the previous 6 days in conclusion of God finishing the creation of that day, whether it was a time period or a day. When it was done, it says this, so the evening and the morning were the 6th day. Now, this phrase, evening and morning, is found in every single day except which one? You already know the answer. The 7th day. Well, why? Well, that's interesting, right? Because every day was started kind of from the previous day and then wrapped up, but it doesn't say it for the 7th day. And could it just be that the author just didn't care? Maybe, I don't know, but I think it would. It seems to be a very intentional end from one day to the next. It is concluded with every single day up until the last one. How come? Well, one answer that some people have postulated is that maybe the 7th day isn't over yet. So when the creation account was written, it's to represent that we're still in it. And so that would be another reason why some people would hold that these represent eras and not specific days, because clearly if it was 7 24-hour days, that answer wouldn't work. But if it is more representative of eras, maybe it's a possibility. So not saying either way, it's just an interesting facet. But the point is that either way, right, regardless of what your view is on that, the emphasis on the text is clear. And it is clearly on the fact that God had finished creating. Because if we look at the next verses, right, verses 1 and 2 of chapter 2, it says that the heavens and the earth and all the host of them were finished. And on the 7th day, God ended his work, which he had done, and he rested on the 7th day from all his work, which he had done. Then God blessed the 7th day and sanctified it, because in it he rested from all his work, which he had created and made. So you see, it makes a specific mention of God blessing the day, him resting because he was done working. And then it summarizes it really well in Genesis 2:4, where it says, this is the history of the heavens and the earth when they were created. in the day that the Lord God made the heavens, the earth and the heavens. And, when we think about the Bible and the chapters and verses, the text is inspired, but the chapters and verse breaks are not. Those were inserted later by man. And I actually think that the natural end of Genesis 1 is actually this verse, right? I don't think it's 131. I think that the thought actually completes better here at the end of Genesis 2:4. It seems to wrap up really well. I didn't make the Bible. I'm not criticizing. I'm just saying this feels like much more of a natural end, because people get confused when they read chapter 2. And it starts off still talking about there, and then it goes right into going backwards and talking about man, because what we realize is that in Genesis chapter 2, we're returning to events that happened on the sixth day. We're not continuing the same chronology, and that's confusing, and some people have called that an error. Genesis 1 was intended as an overview, and then Genesis 2 is going back in and focusing on the most important part of Genesis chapter 1. Right? And so that's why I think that was a better spot for a natural break. But the emphasis that God had created intentionally, and he was done, and he had culminated with the height of his creation, right? And on Genesis, and on day 6, right, God creates man. The culmination, the pinnacle, the height, the crescendo, whatever you want to call it, all of it was set up so that God could create man. So in the next unit, unit 6, we're going to take a look at mankind, a creation like none other.